warranties. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area. Plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing. And we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer. Locally owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
TJ, we had an interesting car ride yesterday as we welcomed you into the fast lane. First of all, I don't think I was too much in the fast lane yesterday. You've had car issues lately. You might be most specifically listening to that Sheeler Motor Mile commercial because you might have to be thinking about how they might be helping you with your next car if things don't go very well, and our thoughts and prayers are that they do.
Yeah.
So we're on our way back from Charlottesville, and you had a chance to chat with me, and we got a chance to get to know each other a little bit better, and you haven't been scared off yet, so I consider that a win. We touched on your favorite sports. Lean into that microphone, by the way, because we do want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Basketball is your first love, and college basketball in particular. It's understandable because you've grown up. Is it reasonable to say kind of right outside the triangle in North Carolina?
I would say right out there. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's almost to be expected. Like, you grow up in that particular area, and it's probably the easiest thing, as Kurt would remind us, RIP to the legend from Good Burger.
Well, I should have known.
I should have put two and two together just when you informed us that you were going to work with us and that you were from there. But finally got a chance to get a little confirmation. But we touched on other sports and different things.
Yeah.
You are one of the PA announcers for the Lynchburg Hillcats, correct?
That is correct. Yes,
so
sir.
I would presume minor league baseball is something you enjoy and appreciate as well?
Yeah, I grew up with the Carolina Mudcats, who the Hillcats beat for the first half title and are currently second place in the second half title.
So first of all, we haven't had a chance to get your opinion on that.
Yeah.
Was there kind of like a pit in your stomach? Was there confusion when you're announcing for the Lynchburg Hillcats, but yet the Carolina Mudcats are your childhood team?
I love the Carolina Mudcats, but being with the Lynchburg Hillcats, I've grown closer with the team than I ever felt with the Mudcats, I feel like. And just because of the people in that organization that I went to college with, I grew up with, you could say. So I feel like I have more of an emotional attachment to the Mudcats, but I feel like in a career aspect, the Hillcats gave me an opportunity that the Mudcats weren't able to give.
Oh, for sure. Totally get that. No ill will toward all of that. We've had teams that have gotten our interest in different sports, but yet we ultimately have an opportunity to turn this into a profession, and sometimes loyalties, can be bought. Let's just say it like it is. To quote Nino Brown from New Jack City, it's never personal, it's always business. Or you could use the same line from The Godfather, as more of our listeners may appreciate. Both very sinister, by the way, and in their undertones.
Yeah.
So the Lynchburg Hillcats, though, you're the PA announcer for them. Yeah. You've been to other minor league ballparks, obviously Carolina Mudcats. I'd be shocked if you haven't seen the Durham Bulls venue.
I have been to Durham Bulls, yeah.
I figured as much being from there. I've been to plenty myself over the years, and there's something about minor league baseball and just baseball as a sport, where as much of going to the game is about the atmosphere around the game as it is the action that's taking place on the field. Now, it's a bonus if they're good. Lynchburg Hillcats have been good for plenty of years. Finally won a Carolina League half championship this past year, but they've contended for deep postseason runs in previous years. So that's one angle to this. But the news came out in the spring about the Lynchburg Hillcats and City Stadium. Sorry, I'm petulant like that. If the sponsor of the stadium wants to become a sponsor of ours, I'll be glad to give them mentions here in the fast lane. Otherwise, Petulant Ed is coming out, and yes, I referred to myself in the third person. So City Stadium getting $5.3 million in upgrades. That figure was dropped just recently. We knew the upgrades were going to come. Carnival-themed area for children, additional beverage stands, about 500 new seats, fully enclosed event space for 300 people that could be used year-round. That's kind of an extension off the club-level area. I'll be honest. There are a couple thoughts that enter my mind on this. One of which is just on principle. I am not a fan of public funding for stadiums in the world of sports. And it's more, we're talking $5.3 million. Normally, when you're talking upgrades or even just new stadiums, you're adding 2 zeros to that. You're looking at like $530 million. So it's a major hit on a line item and on the budget. And ironically, they're in cities, in a lot of cases, that have plenty of larger issues that are out there. For more on that, Virginia's Talk Station app, if that's your thing. But when it comes to the city of Lynchburg, I think you can make a compelling case. The City Stadium itself for the Hillcats draws people there. I am one of the few people that minor league baseball is generally affordable. It's more affordable now, of course, because if you go to InsaneRadioDeals.com, you'll get $5 extra off the already low prices of reserved or general admission tickets with the food voucher at InsaneRadioDeals.com. That special runs now through midnight Eastern tonight. So through 11:59 p.m. Monday, July 7th. But it's affordable entertainment. So when I go to a different area, it's almost always on my radar of going to a minor league game. And my kids are getting older. Happy birthday to William and James. They turned 7 today. It's awesome. Going to go home tonight. Might even have some cake. I've been a real good healthy eater, but we all have to indulge at times. So this is what you get as you start to grow up. And I would imagine for you, TJ, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in a different spot. I'm looking for family-friendly and affordable entertainment because I have to, ball on a budget, for lack of a better phrase. I got a wife, myself, 2 kids, going to want food. This stuff can add up very quickly. Not to mention when your kids are 7, they'll take like 1 or 2 bites and then just not be hungry anymore, or they'll want to change to something else. And if you go to larger venues and you're paying like $15 for a basic hot dog and $13 for ice cream, when you could go to the store and literally buy like packets of hot dogs and buns and condiments, or you could go and buy quarts of ice cream, like literally you're paying more. Hillcats are reasonable priced for those type of concessions and amenities. And again, you know more than I do even, TJ, because you literally work at City Stadium. But when you factor all that in, that's where, for me as somebody who is anti-public spending for stadium upgrades, particularly when you're talking like billionaire owners in a sports world, I can bite on the bait that's being thrown out there that, the Hillcats plus the city of Lynchburg combined to upgrade City Stadium for, and I'm not saying it's, $5.3 million. Look, I'd love that $5.3 million. I'm sure you would. All of our listeners would. But just $5.3 million relative to what it costs to upgrade the stadium or other enhancements, to me, seems like it's at least a reasonable investment when you consider this one actually seems like it's got a chance to pay off like in our lifetime.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the whole thing is trying to bring an even bigger atmosphere for the Hillcats. And I think as far as atmospheres go, the plans for this stadium, I think can be huge, in all honesty. I like where they're addressing them, more seating. We had heard about the carnival rides as employees. Like, we know that'll be installed as late as next year. I'm not sure about the seating and everything, but I know that's coming. So, I think it's just when your kid's not watching the game and, they're distracted by everything else, it's something to keep an occupy on. It's something for them to keep their occupy on while the parents enjoy the game. So I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, you got to make a kid. Your point about the carnival and the kids area is big because the more exciting it can be and the more parts to it, the more you're going to keep kids coming to the ballpark at a young age.
Yeah.
And that's a crucial thing. And affordability is big. $5.3 million. Look, if this was $53 million or $530 million, I'd probably raise a stink about it, to be honest. But $5.3 million for stadium upgrades is not a lot when you're talking about the relative cost for upgrading stadiums and, frankly, just infrastructural costs now for larger buildings and operations. Like all these things. I mean, here's a shocker. Again, if you want to get political, Virginia's Talk Station app or 100.9 Lynchburg. But inflation has happened over the last, we'll call it 10 years. That way we can get through multiple administrations and everybody can feel like we're blaming them. Perhaps we are. But you factor that in to the reality of, stadiums still needing enhancements. I think it's a great idea. I've seen some of the renderings. I was over there doing the InsaneRadioDeals.com fast take this morning and bumped into a couple of higher level staffers with the Lynchburg Hillcats, and they were giving kind of an explanation of timelines and that the goal is to have a lot of these upgrades in place by the start of the 2026 season. I use the phrase the goal because let's also put this in perspective. City Stadium is going to be used until at least the midpoint of September with the Hillcats in the playoffs.
That gives them 5? That gives them 5 months because the season starts in April.
Correct. So you got October, November, December, January, February, March. So I guess 6 months technically. When you're factoring in the timeline. But here's the thing: you're going to have weather that's going to pop in, and we're in the summer where, as hot as it is, there's not rain.
Right.
I wish we'd had some, and I wish it was cooler, but it's not. So we're dealing with heat and humidity and the nastiness of being outside. But if you're talking about building, you can still work through that this type of time of year. Days are longer. The weather is often drier, which means when you're building, you can make progress. It's going to be more challenging for City Stadium, just the raw logistics of it, because you're going to hit the fall. And oftentimes we get, rain that comes in during that time frame.
Yeah.
Then you've got winter. Who knows what that's going to bring? I mean, remember this past winter where like every single Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, we would have inclement weather that came in. We felt it at InsaneRadioDeals.com because people just weren't getting out. And it wasn't until March when it dried out and it got to be better. So this should not affect the field of play for the Hillcats. They will be open. But as far as the stadium upgrades to City Stadium go, having talked with some people today and having, just putting 2 and 2 together with like weather and logic here.
Yeah.
I think it's an admirable goal. You'd love it for things to go off smoothly, but I wouldn't be shocked if parts of this are the upgrades are in place immediately at City Stadium. And then other parts are things that are still under construction as the season starts to develop and progress. And that's just the reality of trying to get a construction project wrapped up when you have a timeline and a goal versus the reality of how the world operates.
Yeah, I will say this, though. I do think the upgrades that they're bringing in, it's smaller infrastructure. So I think that doesn't require as much time as, say, cabanas when they were being built at Williams Stadium that went nearly into the next football season.
That's a great point, though, because that whole
Yeah.
end zone, I guess, is it technically the south end zone? It's not the clubhouse end zone. It's the cabana end zone
Yeah.
at Williams Stadium for Liberty. You were totally redoing. They had a clubhouse, like a visiting locker room that was there.
Yeah.
They had to attach the new one, or it was part of building the indoor practice facility where the visiting locker room is. Liberty's had their own area, but you're taking all that out. Like, those are large scale projects. These are smaller to a large degree.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be things that have to be taken apart or torn down. The playground might be taken apart and then you kind of reinstall a new one, but you're not having to take major chunks of the stadium just and lop them off. You're going to be adding on to the suite area that you have with the luxury boxes and the press boxes. There's going to be more there. You're going to be adding in additional concession stands. But when you're adding it, they've still got concession stands at City Stadium. Like, you would love to have less wait time. More stands means more people are going to buy because you're not feeling like, oh, I've got to wait in line. There are more places where you can separate people from their money. I mean, let's be real here, whether it's the Hillcats or Liberty or any other endeavor, like, part of the goal is to separate people from their money and make it as convenient as possible.
Minor league baseball affiliates make more money from concessions than they do tickets. So
sure,
that's definitely the goal, and to bring in more concessions. I know at the Hillcats, that's the main goal.
Oh,
the concessions.
For sure. I mean, look, we have a great deal, and it's great to get people to the Hillcats game, and it's affordable with InsaneRadioDeals.com. But there's also a statistical benefit for the Lynchburg Hillcats, which is why we've had a great partnership with them for a while, is our listeners can get a great deal and save money right off the bat. But the Hillcats can still make some money right off the bat as well, because you get a family in or a group of people in, and inevitably each of them may buy, a beverage or two, a food item or two on top of what they're getting here. And all of a sudden, everybody wins. You save a little bit as a fan. The Hillcats get to, they'll still make money off of it. And of course, we make some money with InsaneRadioDeals.com. And I know I'm selfishly plugging it, but the way the setup is worked is when you have a fan environment, that's the thing. And I will throw this out there too. I don't know everybody that was involved. RIP to Ronnie Roberts, great person. But with he and some of the other organizations, it took a long time to get the initial reconstruction of City Stadium a couple decades ago. That was a long kind of extracting your teeth process to get that idea passed in Lynchburg. Mm-hmm. And yes, $5.3 million, especially given that, we seem to be having budget issues in the city of Lynchburg. I don't want to go into all the specifics. You can, again, check out the news updates with Bill Trefiro and others on 100.9 FM, the Virginia's Talk Station app, or even when we air them right here on VTR and Sports as we do at different times of the day. But I get that. But this to me is not just an expenditure. I can at least see a path where you upgrade the stadium, more people come out, there's a chance to make money back off of this, and it is a community draw to bringing people into the area of, hey, I'm from out of town, even if it's just the surrounding Lynchburg areas, where you're going to come in with the family, you're going to go to a game, and you can make a day of shopping and activity out of it. Yeah. And I think along those lines as a family person now, and that's, again, how my mind thinks is, what can we do to make it a real fun extravaganza with our kids? Because as they get, they're 7 today is when they turn 7, but as they get 8, 9, 10, you start being able to extend your days out. So you're looking for those type of activities. And minor league baseball, inherently, just the nature of the product, like you mentioned, TJ, it is an affordable way to draw people out. So that's where, again, you will find fewer people out there that think it's ridiculous, privatized profits, public costs of stadiums. But I at least get this because it's not a large investment, and it's one that I can, because it's not a large expenditure, it means less expenses made, a chance for it to actually pay off.
No, for sure. And I'll say this, it's cheaper to go to a Hillcats game than to go to the movies these days.
That's a great point.
I mean, shoot. I think the Hillcats offer so much, and having carnival rides, having more food stands and everything creates a better atmosphere. And especially at the pace the Hillcats are going, they're a better team this year. Even with Tommy Hawk now gone, lots of great players, of an amazing bullpen. I wish the Braves had. But I really think that this is the time to go see the Hillcats. This is a great time to take your family out. And we've seen a lot of sold out crowds, not just out of July 4th, but we've seen thousands upon thousands come to the stadium. So there's definitely a growing brand there. So you take advantage of it. I like the direction the owners are going in right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's progressive. It's forward thinking. You have to be willing to take some chances. And Lynchburg's an area that's slower to do that. I feel qualified to say that, having lived here for over a decade and growing up here before I moved away for 10 years to go to school in Memphis and then back in Martinsville after that. So I'd like to think I'm qualified enough to say Lynchburg is slow to make these changes. But you made them earlier. You have chances to get upgrades. Overall, I think this is a real win for people in the area. And we will get more insight into this around 5:50 today in part 2 of Covering the Commonwealth, as Jason Prill, the broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats, will join us as well. However, there are other topics that we get to address right now in...
It's time for Fast 5 at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
So Wimbledon today was really interesting. Novak Djokovic won his match to go into the quarterfinals 1-6. He has this thing where, he'll fall down early in a set and just almost tank it. It'll experiment. He'll kind of throw the set, for lack of a better phrase, and then he buckles down, which he did. It was kind of a grind, though. It was about a 3.5-hour match, which is a lot longer than he's been on court and a lot longer than he's needed to. And, for him, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when he gets to Jannik Sinner in the semifinals, presuming Djokovic and Sinner both go there. So Novak wins 1-6, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, but it was a grind for him today. And yet, Yannick Sinner almost didn't make it to today. Sinner was down 2-0 to Grigor Dimitrov, who's had a history with injuries. And sure enough, they crop up today. And there's no word on the severity of the injuries. But when you have a 2-0 lead and you're 2-2 in the third set and you have to pull out the way Dimitrov did today, I mean, you feel for him because this was the best chance I would say he's probably going to have in his career to get that type of signature victory. He's a guy who's got injuries. He's now into his mid-30s. As you get older and more miles accrued on you as an athlete, more general wear and tear, the harder it is to battle that. Look at Novak Djokovic as an example of why people worry about him. Yannick Sinner got through, but he did not look convincing today at all for a guy that had not dropped a set and had been ruthlessly efficient up until today. It raised serious concerns. I'd still make him the favorite over Novak, but all of a sudden the door might be propped open for Novak. And I mean, I've said it before, but if Novak can get to the semifinals with relatively little wear and tear, a lot's going to depend on how he handles the quarterfinals coming up in a couple of days. But if Novak can get to the semifinals with relatively little wear and tear, then at that point, this is my career. I'll take whatever shot I need. I will redline it on Friday and Sunday to try to beat Sinner and Alcaraz. And it's probably the best chance he'll have to win. But it was a fascinating day at Wimbledon because of that. Meanwhile, the women's side, it's weird to say chalk looks like it's going. I don't make Aryna Sabalenka. She should be the favored, but she's minus 155, which to me is way steeper than I would ever expect. She's been good, and she's stepped up when she's needed to, and she's a multi-time Grand Slam champion. But I've got concerns overall at the overall price. I think she's more vulnerable than the price would dictate, kind of like when she was favored by too much against Gauff in the French Open final. I think Sabalenka should have been the favorite then. I think she should be the favorite now, but it's bigger than I would feel comfortable with. Iga Swiatek looked good today against Clara Tauson. Mira Andreeva, people have been waiting for her to slip up. She did not come into this tournament in great form, but she was dominant today against Emma Navarro, part of the private jet club of tennis players. She and Jessica Pegula, who are billionaire heiresses, if you will. But those two looked really good today. So I think there are at least multiple contenders now. I would make those three, Andreeva, Iga, and Sabalenka, the favorites. And I think it's in the right order. Sabalenka, then Iga, then Andreeva, and then a drop-off to everyone else. I think that's right. Just like the men's side, Carlos is the favorite, and then there's a drop-off to Sinner, and then a drop-off to Novak. And I think that's probably priced about right on the men's side. But I feel more confident in Carlos than I do on the women's, where just best 2 of 3, anything can really happen. Pittsburgh Steelers announced they have signed general manager Omar Khan to a 3-year contract extension that will keep him with the team through the 2028 season. I have to think a lot of this is that he's doing what Mike Tomlin wants and the Steelers are looking to do right now, because this is a boomer bust roster. And I'm an Eagles fan. And look, you'll find very few people that respect Mike Tomlin the way that I do, because, and I love the attitude he's had. They try not to tank. They legitimately go for wins, but they've got a lot of veteran investments. When you're talking about, again, wear and tear on older players.
Nursing home.
Yeah, it's a real concern. How do you reconstruct it if it goes south this year? Or is it almost understood that you're going to do whatever you can to get your franchise quarterback after this year, whether or not Aaron Rodgers plays well, because he's basically said this is going to be his last year. But I have concerns about Khan and the Steelers. I don't think they've done a great job of finding quarterback options to this point. They found a way to win in spite of that. I think a lot of it is Mike Tomlin's a really good coach and knows how to get a lot out. I know, breaking news, never had a losing season. I get that. But you're seeing overall the effects of that organization. That's the one that's a head scratcher to me. I kind of at times wonder whether Khan could have done more to bring in better talent with the Steelers so that they're not just kind of in this trudging of mediocrity where they never have a losing season, but they also have not won a playoff game in about a decade as well. Earlier today, or I guess late last night, the Washington Nationals fired manager Dave Martinez and GM Mike Rizzo, ending one of the longest partnerships in Major League Baseball. Both part of that World Series championship team in 2019. This is the double-sided thing. You wonder whether they needed a fresh voice, but you also wonder how much they realistically could have done, because when they were in their ownership sale phase for the last couple of years, they were shedding costs so much where they're not retaining hardly any of their key players. Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon, the list can go on for the Nationals, and they just haven't found a way to keep a lot of those players around. You may need a fresh voice, and I do get that to a certain extent, but I just kind of wonder what else could have been done by now fired manager Dave Martinez, and GM Mike Rizzo when you consider everything else that organization realistically could have put together and realistically could have been able to accrue. Meanwhile, on to
Number 2.
The New York Knicks did not hire Dawn Staley. She was an initial interview, but was not one of their finalists for their vacant head coaching position with Mike Brown, the locked-in candidate there. I would have loved to have seen this. I thought for a while, if there are two coaches that are women, if there's a league that would ever hire a women coach, a man's league that would hire a woman coach, it is the Knicks, it is the NBA. They're more progressive. Yeah. Dawn Staley and Becky Hammon are the two names that probably popped to mind the most obviously. I was an advocate of Dawn Staley being considered for UVA, and that doesn't mean that I disagree with Ryan Odom. I think of the candidates they could have hired, he appeared to be the guy initially, and he seems like he was the correct candidate out of that bunch. But I just kind of look at this as I love to see what Dawn Staley's done and think it would be fascinating for someone to go from being a women's basketball coach to coaching men. And you have to have the right take no, you know what attitude. And Dawn Staley clearly is in that particular camp. Meanwhile, the NFLPA, and I'm sure Trey and Lake Lewis will discuss this tomorrow in the Fast Lane, but they are, quote, not expected to engage in formal negotiations, end quote, with the NFL and its team owners on a potential 18-game regular season and other issues, according to the sports labor agreement, at least until early next year. Look, I still maintain this is an inevitability that we will get to 18 games. More games means more
dollar bills, y'all.
For the owners. And it also means more
dollar bills, y'all.
For the players because of the amount of revenue sharing that's come in. But if you're the NFL, the players in particular, you know the owners, this is the one big initiative they have. Why not drag your feet on it a little bit more? See if they'll concede and give you something else of what you want. That's why I'm not surprised by the NFLPA taking their time on this and seeing if they can get a little bit more than what they might have initially wanted. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, we'll touch on your teams and topics. Part 1 of covering the Commonwealth, Tech, UVA, JMU. When we return, this is the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
The feel of the beach is perfect. Relaxing with family and friends. Bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting? Windows that are impossible to open and close and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
You're thinking, can our business afford executive maintenance? You should be thinking, can we afford not to use executive maintenance? They'll give your business the professional look that makes a good impression for your clients. That's what they do for us at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. From monthly office cleaning to pressure washing, strip seal and wax for tile floors, and construction cleanup, we trust executive maintenance to keep the Virginia Talk Radio Network sparkling. You should too. Put them to work for you. Visit executivemaintenancelynchburg.com and call them today.
This fall, Saturdays belong to the Hokies.
Oh, and these Hokie fans are going crazy here in Collegetown, USA.
Lane Stadium, electrifying, iconic, the best in college football.
Oh, you'd have to be here to believe it.
Built by tradition and fueled by passion.
Breaks free at the 10, to the 5, touchdown Tech.
Where every roar and every cheer brings you home. Are you ready to start jumping? Tickets on sale now. Visit Hokiesports.com.
It's not too late to register for the Virginia Commonwealth Games at Liberty University and around Lynchburg. Athletes of any age or skill level can participate. Choose from over 35 sports, including tennis, softball, archery, and bowling.
Win a gold, silver, or bronze medal and join us for the opening ceremonies and tailgate party festivities. Register today online at commonwealthgames.org. That's commonwealthgames.org. It's the Virginia Commonwealth Games, brought to you by Kroger, Bedford Area Welcome Center and Tourism, and Campbell County Economic Development.
Hi, I'm Matt with Fleet Feet Roanoke. I've enjoyed working with Ed Lane and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when they sold their Roanoke station, I was skeptical the partnership could still provide value. Months later, I'm thankful that Ed took the time to meet with me, discuss the right solutions, and a plan to invite his audience to Fleet Feet Roanoke. Now we're able to build a connection with that audience thanks to Ed's creativity. Stop by and see us at Fleet Feet Roanoke to learn more. We'd love to get to know you.
Email info@virginiatalkradionetwork.com to start growing your business. Sandstone architecture, melodic music, wonders of the world. They're staples of Egyptian and Mediterranean culture. But you didn't have to travel thousands of miles to experience it. Just drive to downtown Cairo. Enjoy food from the entire Mediterranean, blended with the best Egyptian recipes. That means fresh ingredients cooked on a charcoal grill. Downtown Cairo staples include $5 heroes, and build your own Mediterranean bowl. Experience the taste of the Egyptian and Mediterranean world in your own backyard. Downtown Cairo. Business 29 in Madison Heights and the Grays Mill Shopping Center in Forest.
When it comes to legal matters, there is no substitute for experience. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've gained knowledge from serving Virginians for over 4 decades. Since 1982, we've handled auto accidents and personal injury cases ranging from simple fender benders to complex tractor-trailer cases. And we're ready to put our experience to work for you. We hope you never need our services, but if you do, just give us a call at 777-HURT or visit us at trostlaw.com.
Thursday on the morning warm-up, frontstretch.com's Dalton Hopkins joined us to discuss his article about the struggles of small teams in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, Daniel Suarez and Steve Newmark leaving their respective teams, plus Ty and I debate the ideal conferences for Liberty, UVA, and Virginia Tech. No show Friday due to Independence Day, so we're back Monday reacting to the weekend. Join us on the morning warm-up. Weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the VTRN Sports app. Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTRN Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So shout out to our girl, Candy Waller, Bowie TV Sports Madam President, covers the Washington Commanders for us and has been a guest recently on the Sports Nerd podcast with our very own TJ Wilkerson. She's got her own podcast, Seawall does, Coaching from the Couch. And we bring that up because I don't know if Coaching from the Couch is the right one for here, but we have a different version to kick off part 1 of covering the Commonwealth.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
Shane Metlin, DNRonline.com, and it's Shane_DNR Sports, hanging out with us today in the Fast Lane. Shane, not necessarily coaching from the couch, but sitting on the sidelines is how things might be described with the JMU Dukes right now. You and your colleague Katie Harper were all over this on the latest Purple and Bold podcast, and y'all have written about it at DNRonline.com, and you've tweeted at Shane_DNR Sports. If you had to put the peg right now in terms of what JMU and, frankly, a lot of the schools on the eastern part of the Sun Belt Conference want, is it almost unanimous that they would rather sit on the sidelines, even if there are only 13 teams in the Sun Belt, because they're waiting to see what happens, especially with the new buyout news coming as far as how easy it is to get out of the ACC starting in 2030, 2031?
Yeah, hard to say if it's unanimous or not, but right now I don't feel like there's probably enough votes to add somebody to the Sun Belt right now. I mean, that could change quickly too, because I think maybe they're expanding their scope a little bit to what teams they're talking to and looking at. We may see some teams from the MAC names come up here in the coming days, but Yeah, like you said, so many other factors are out there right now, whether it be those ACC buyouts and if that could change the look of that conference, the American, will the Pac-12 keep going after more teams like Memphis and things like that now that they kind of have an idea what their TV deal might look like if they add those teams. So, all those different things I think have at least some people in the Sun Belt saying, hey, let's wait a little bit, see how some things shake out, and then see who's really available or who might be available, what might happen here in the next few years.
So there's a lot of ifs that seem to be played out within the Sun Belt. Is this a stall tactic, or is this legitimately from the Sun Belt, at least certain schools, maybe the understanding that, I don't think they'd be in the same league as like Clemson, Florida State, and Miami, but maybe some bottom parts of the ACC that get left behind in a potential realignment from that conference, that JMU might land there.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Like if the ACC in a few years looks like what the Pac-12 did here recently, where only a couple of the original members are left, then yeah, if you're JMU, if you're ODU, App State, East Carolina, USF in particular, I think all of those schools and some others probably have to wonder, okay, would we be in the Texas State situation next time around where we might end up in something that's still called the ACC, obviously not the same conference as it was, but still probably a step up from where we are.
That's a good point. Shane Metlin with us here in the Fast Lane. Shane, good to speak with you on this. We're going to hold off on the later questions because there will be more coming up in the future, and we'll tease that as an opportunity and also a chance to follow up on what you and Katie discussed coming up in a new Purple and Bold podcast that will probably drop within the next couple days.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Shane Metlin with us here in the Fast Lane with JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Jerry, always great to be speaking with you. Big picture, we picked up on what we just discussed a moment ago with Shane Metlin of the Harrisonburg Daily News Record, and that being the ACC and particularly the buyout. It drops to $75 million in 2030, 2031. Is that something you're monitoring at JerryRatcliffe.com as the potential timeline for when this might get real dicey for UVA and a select group of other schools, maybe that might go under the Magnificent Seven umbrella?
Well, Ed, you always keep an eye on it. You never really know in these times what direction schools might decide to go. I really don't know if anything's going to happen unless, I guess the prediction by some is that super conference forms for football only. I think that's probably the only way that we're going to see that kind of movement because I just don't know where all these schools are going to go unless they're absorbed by the SEC or the Big Ten. But I really don't know that would even work because there's so much talk out there about forming a super conference with however many teams from all the conferences just for football and nothing else. And then everybody else would remain in their conferences, and there might be some reshuffling there to make it more geographically logical. But it's something I guess could happen at any time or may not happen at all. And I don't know what is going to have to occur to trigger that. But as you know, there's been several times when we were attending the ACC football kickoff, not expecting anything. And I think 3 summers in a row, there were major announcements that rocked the entire college world in the Big Ten and the SEC and et cetera, the ACC. So it's so unpredictable in these times. And who knows when we could get another major reset of everything.
Yeah, that's a good point about where we could get another one, and people are eyeing that. More info will come surely at JerryRatcliffe.com. Hootie, pivoting to a different side of things. Podcast is now dropped. I think there are 1 or 2 editions of these with Carla Williams speaking with Jeff White. Now, I get it, and this is no disrespect to Jeff White, who's done a great work in the media and now works for VirginiaCavaliers.com or VirginiaSports.com, is their Virginia coverage person. on the one hand, it's not as many appearances with the broader media. On the other hand, is this a step in the right direction, at least for Carla Williams and UVA, that she's at least doing something and putting herself out there?
Perhaps, although I don't know that the perception is going to change a lot until she does open up to the broader media, because, it's just like an in-house mouth organ, really. There's not going to be any tough questions, no controversy. It's just whatever message she wants to put out there to the fan base. And to me, that's not being upfront with your fans about their questions concerning all the major issues going on at UVA.
Great point from Jerry Ratcliffe, and more desired from a lot of Virginia fans. Hootie, good to speak with you as always. Thank you much. We'll have more to discuss, including more recruits coming in for Virginia, which you're covering in depth at jerryratcliffe.com, and we'll touch on that as well when we speak again.
Okay, Ed. Thank you, brother.
Our pleasure. Jerry Ratcliffe with us in the fast lane. Speaking of recruits, yes, David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. It seems like every time we turn around, David, Virginia Tech, they're adding another offensive line commitment. How much of this is the influence of new offensive line coach Matt Moore wanting developmental pieces? How much of it is the fact that if you're Virginia Tech, and we kind of saw it being on the wrong end last year, losing center Braylon Moore to LSU and left tackle Xavier Chaplin to Auburn, that you're probably going to have a tough time buying, let's call it what it is, elite offensive line talent that's already developed. So your best bet may be to identify guys early and take a lot of flyers in recruiting.
Yeah, Ed, absolutely. First of all, great to be with you as always. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there a little bit. I think it's a combination of things. This is an offensive line coach in Matt Moore who arrived this past offseason and has to kind of revamp what was a disappointing little bit of group of offensive line recruiting over the last couple of years. I think the Hokies have hit here or there, but not consistently. And Ed, I think when you look at where Virginia Tech has struggled on the football field recently, you can look at the offensive line and go, that explains a lot. And this group had Joe Rudolph originally for one season. Then he left. In comes Ron Crook. Ron Crook's here for 2 years. I mean, there's been so much turnover in that room. Now you've got Matt Moore, a guy who is probably the best recruiter of the three of them. You could probably say Joe Rudolph, considering what he did at Notre Dame this past season. Pretty good coach. But I think Matt Moore, a guy who has connections previously at West Virginia, really good DMV connections. You're seeing him finally getting his footing. Hokies picked up a 4-star, the highlight of the class so far. A guy from Green Run. That pipeline continues to go strong, but you're seeing them make an emphasis on offensive linemen. Chris Coleman, my colleague, has said it many, many times, Ed. These big offensive linemen, they don't come cheap in terms of money in the transfer portal, and there aren't many of them. You have to identify them out of high school, kind of what you were talking about earlier, and you can see Virginia Tech making much more of an emphasis. But the bottom line is, once you get them to campus, that's one deal. You got to get them to pan out. You got to develop them. And that's Virginia Tech's next challenge. And I think Matt Moore, he's got a big task on his hands, but I think he's kind of the right guy for the job. And he's proven that on the recruiting trail so far.
We can get into the exact number of wins and losses for Virginia Tech, but how much of keeping Brent Pry around in Blacksburg hinges on, a number of people on offense and defense showing that they can take this talent and develop it. And even if, they're similar in that, 6 to 8 win range on the win side of things, the win-loss record, if it looks like they're developing young talent and able to retain them, that would create more optimism compared to what we've seen recently where a lot of talent leaves or underachieving.
Absolutely. I think you look at a receiver room with Fontel Mines at the helm. He's been Virginia Tech's best recruiter by far. You could argue he's been the best recruiter in the state since he got to Blacksburg across any institution, in the FBS level. The bottom line, though, is that, after the Hokies, just had a veteran group of receivers in Stephen Gosnell, Jalen Lane, Ollie Jennings, DeQuan Felton, those guys leave. Well, Fontel Mines has to show that he can develop this next crop of receivers. I'm not saying he won't be able to, but I'm just saying it's an unknown because we haven't had a chance to see it yet. This is a big year for a guy like him, and that goes across the board for a lot of different positions. To your point, yes, if the Hokies can prove, even if the win total is only 7 or 8 this year, the Hokies can prove that they're developing guys and that the program's heading in the right direction and that they've got the right guys at the helm in terms of assistant coaches and staff members. You look at strength and conditioning, obviously Jared Ferguson, he is in this role now after taking over this offseason. But you look at position coaches, if they can show that, hey, they're getting the right guys in, they're developing them, and you can see the progress. I take a guy like Keelan Adams, Chance Wiggins, for example, right? Highly touted 4-star guys from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Well, it's their time to shine now. I know Adams is coming off an injury, but you've got to have this next batch of receivers come in and make ends meet and be proven, I guess. It's their time to shine, so to speak. And that's why it's such an interesting season coming into this, Ed, because you had so many veterans last year. The one guy that's back this year is Kyron Drones. You've got a couple other guys here or there, but otherwise you're filling in with guys you recruited. There's not really much of an excuse anymore. These are your guys, so to speak, in terms of the staff, guys that they brought in. So sorry to be a little bit long-winded, but yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting, complex narrative here because I think the Hokies have a lot of talent on the roster, but you have to develop it. And those guys have to step up and make ends meet and make plays at the end of the day, or else, that's what translates to winning.
It does. And winning insight is always there for you at techsideline.com. Thanks to David Cunningham. He's at The Real D Cunningham on Twitter and Instagram. David, good to chat with you. Thank you very much for the time today. We appreciate it and look forward to speaking again soon.
Sounds good, Ed. Talk to you soon.
David Cunningham with us here in the Fast Lane. When we come back, John Manson from AseaofRed.com kicks it off, plus Lynchburg Hillcats and NASCAR still to come on the VTRN Sports app. And ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
The Lynchburg Hillcats square off against the Hickory Crawdads July 8th through the 13th as we get you prepared for some outdoors living. Come raise some money for Hunters for the Hungry on our outdoors night on Friday with a giveaway of campfire mugs and a post-game campout. On Saturday, try your luck on our mechanical bull during Western night. And then on Sunday, we give away Hillcat socks for our Kids Club Day. Get your tickets at lynchburg-hillcats.com.
The thrill of Liberty Flames football returns this fall.
Give it to us. There it is. Touchdown, Liberty.
Be at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg when the Flames begin the chase for the Conference USA Championship. See all 6 home games, including a battle with in-state rival JMU on September 20th.
Here we go.
Cross-conference games against New Mexico State, Delaware, Missouri State, and Kennesaw State. Season opener August 30th against Maine. Season tickets and full schedule at lufootball.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors,
just like you, and every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
VTRN Sports is now heading to YouTube. Head to youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg to watch both the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and the Fast Lane with Ed Lane live each day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have notifications turned on. All the great local content you love with VTRN Sports is now on YouTube. Subscribe to the VTRN Sports YouTube channel at youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
You could say we have been overdue to get to a lot of this, but somebody who's been, well, he's had his finger on the pulse for a lot of this, joins us right now as we explain what we mean in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Liberty Flames.
John Manson from a seaofred.com with us today here in the Fast Lane. John, good to be chatting with you. We have not had much time to delve into a very busy June for the Liberty Flames on the football recruiting trail. Is it just me? This is where you get to correct me and tell me I'm wrong, of course, John, as we welcome you back in. Is it just me, or does it seem like a lot of the high school focus has been particularly on the defensive side of the ball, where Liberty is looking to identify players they can develop, as opposed to maybe offensively where Jamie Chadwell seems to have a system, and they'll get some players that are certainly high school recruits, but there's also the idea that he knows what he may want out of a transfer and can find a vision for how they fit in and can contribute a little quicker.
Well, first of all, Ed, you're never wrong. I don't know what your wife always tells you, but you're never wrong.
Something
but
to the opposite of that.
Yeah, no, you're correct. It's been a lot of defensive emphasis, especially defensive backfield. They've already got three defensive backs, three safeties specifically, and then two corners in this class already. And that's just after really 1 month of a hard recruiting push, as every D1 school does in June, with multiple official visit weekends. And that's been an area of emphasis. Is also an area of emphasis in the most recent the spring transfer portal as well too. So I think with Coach Chadwell, he's been able to build up the offense and the depth there some in his first two, now going on 3 seasons at Liberty, and now they're working on building out the depth. And it'll be interesting too how teams. That's something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, is how teams manage their rosters moving forward now with this new roster limit, with the house settlement of 105 players, whether that's a mix of scholarship and walk-ons or all scholarships. I think most schools, sounds like they're going to be doing some walk-ons still, but it used to be that teams would have 112, 115, 120 players on their roster, and even with those being extra walk-on spots, they would like I know Hugh Freeze, having conversations with him previously when he was at Liberty, he had a playbook for exactly how many players were going to be at each position. I'm sure most coaches do. So how do those get adjusted as we're in this new era? And I'm sure that's going into some of this as well too. Once schools are looking at their high school recruiting, I'm sure it's no different for Coach Chadwell and Liberty. But yeah, it's definitely, defense has definitely been a priority. And it's also interesting they got 2 quarterbacks committed. I don't think that's something that happens often. I can't remember last time Liberty's brought in 2. Actually, I think the last time Liberty had 2 high school signees at a high school at quarterback was back when Buckshot was brought in, and he ended up playing as a true freshman, starting as a true freshman several months later. But I think that was the last time he had a second one. I think it was Rudiger Urick, if my memory serves me correctly, who never really played much and ended up transferring out early in his tenure. So having two quarterbacks is also something that's a little unique, which that'll be interesting too. And again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but when you're talking recruiting, guys, that 2026 guys are not going to be here for another year anyways. But Liberty's got a lot of young guys at that quarterback position. You got two commitments there that would, in theory, if they sign and end up at Liberty, be freshmen on the 2026 team. And then you got, Ethan Houck is a true freshman this year. Would expect him to redshirt. And then Michael Merdinger, the UNC transfer, is a redshirt freshman. So you got a lot of young guys in that room. And Jaden Bradford, a redshirt freshman as well, too. So this year you got three freshman quarterbacks, and you could add two more to the mix next year. So I think that's interesting, an interesting takeaway early as well, too, for the 2026 recruiting class so far.
So there's another interesting part to this development in Liberty. They've had a very busy month of June, as a lot of programs host players, but Liberty secured a lot of football commits, and John Manson has even more in-depth analysis at aseaofred.com. But one of the things that jumped out to me, and it made is it just me, or are you shocked by how involved President Dr. Costin is also in this process? I'm sure he's not grinding the tape the way that Jamie Chadwell and the staff are, but it seems very rare that you get a president of a school that seems to take an active role in looking in connecting with players and helping them decide whether Liberty or any other school would be the place for them.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Ed. You've seen a few pictures with Dr. Costin showing up in some of these recruits on their campus tours and visits and things, and he's been in there. And I've asked a few of the players that have been on campus and have posted photos with Dr. Costin about that. Just, I think the main takeaway there is just how much, Liberty from the top down is just invested in the program, the football program, and having a winning and successful program. So you don't see that a lot, but I don't know if I've ever seen it, honestly. I'm sure it's happened elsewhere, but I don't recall in my time covering Liberty of that, at least showing up with pictures online. And then, so seeing that, and it's also good because I don't think we've seen a lot from Dr. Costin. He's more kind of behind the scenes a little bit from, his predecessor. And, so it's interesting, it's good. I think it's good, for the alumni base and the fans of Liberty Athletics to see him, invested in the athletic programs like that and showing up there too. So we'll see how that continues to transpire. And one thing that I like to monitor as well too is, who is Liberty beating some of these kids for? And you've seen a lot of guys that, are competing against, most all of them have at least P4 offers, which that can be a little misleading because when were they offered and are those committable offers at this point in time? And a lot of times they're not anymore. But when you see guys going on official visits to like one on an official visit to Kentucky, and the next week took an OV to Liberty and committed to Liberty, schools aren't bringing guys in on OVs without, serious interest on them. So, Liberty's been able to beat out a couple. They've lost a couple as well too, put out an article. I think it was this week. Days run together a little bit in the summer when you're cranking out this content, but some of those guys had committed to or came to an official visit on Liberty, and then the next week maybe went on OV to Wake Forest, for example, was one of them, and committed there. So you see Liberty's a lot of the guys they're losing out on or even winning, but they're going. A lot of them are going to the other P4s or some of the other top group of 5 programs like a Memphis or Tulane or something like that. So we continue to see, Liberty's recruiting strength in football increase every year. And maybe this 2026 class might be the first year that Liberty really has significant returns from that 2023 13-1 season, Conference USA Championship, and Fiesta Bowl appearance, because obviously some of that is delayed in recruiting.
John, great insight overall on Liberty recruiting. Even though it's a dead period now, doesn't mean you may not get some recruiting news that pops up with players making their decisions. We will keep it locked to A Sea of Red on Twitter and the .com for the website on the insight on that, and probably have more to discuss when we chat again in another week here in the Fast Lane.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on it.
John Manson with us here in the Fast Lane on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville, Southside, VTRN Sports, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Fastlane, Ned Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. Brian Nolan, frontstretch.com with us here in the Fast Lane. Brian, people are going to think I'm not being serious when I make this comment, but I promise you that I legitimately am today in the Fast Lane. That it's not whether Ty Gibbs would have knocked off Shane Van Gisbergen if they threw a late caution, because I think the last green-white checkered showed that SVG knew how to jump the restart zone and get away from everybody so that Ty Gibbs couldn't knock him out of the way. But it doesn't mean that there should have been a caution, because I think from a safety standpoint, waiting like 30 to 45 seconds to throw the caution for Cody Ware, regardless of whether that means the white flag flew or not, given the severity of that wreck and NASCAR's ability to connect with the in-car audio and realize how injured or hurt Ware was, that the caution flag should have been flown sooner, even if it resulted in a green-white checkered finish.
First off, Ed, thanks for having me on, buddy. Second off, it's kind of funny, two parts of this. Number one, I was talking with my coworker, Dalton Hopkins at frontstretch.com, and I was like, if there's a late race restart, Ty Gibbs is going to do everything and anything to get this win. And so I don't think he would have wrecked him, but he definitely would have bumped him a little bit. But going back to whether they should have thrown a yellow, they absolutely should have. But I think it was a plethora of things. I think, and I just recently learned this about an hour ago. I was listening to Denny Hamlin's podcast, and according to him, now take this with a grain of salt, I don't know if it's true or not, but according to him, the NASCAR was officiating from Charlotte. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different because it's a street circuit and everything, so they probably were just officiating remotely. So that could have been it. But, I mean, Cody Ware absolutely slammed the tires. There was that video that was circulating on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and it was violent, and it was very, very scary. And Jeff Pollock of The Athletic said he timed it, and it was 45 seconds till they had to wave the yellow, in which Shane Van Gisbergen already took the white flag, in which in NASCAR rules, if you take the white flag and caution comes out, the race is over. With that being said, there's also rain coming in, whether lightning was also coming in, fog was coming in. You mix all that together, and I'm going to put the tinfoil cap on here, Ed. I know our friend Michael Massey is going to love this, because you know him and he loves conspiracy theories. But I think that they were very, very slow, but maybe they had a method to their madness.
Even as a Ty Gibbs fan, I don't think it was to screw Ty Gibbs out of getting the victory lane. In honesty, I think he would have been more likely to finish third behind Tyler Reddick than he would have been to overtake SVG, which begs the question that your colleague Anthony Damcott posed at frontstretch.com in his Thinking Out Loud at Chicago piece that dropped yesterday, of SVG potentially wasting a playoff spot. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. The difference is SVG has won on multiple street/road courses already. He deserves to be the favorite on every one of them, whereas, with all due respect, Harrison Burton's the most recent example, and that's a guy that won one plate track where anybody can win. This is one driver who, it's only one type of discipline, and he's not shown to be even a threat anywhere else, but when you're this dominant on one discipline, you at least have earned the spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think all the naysayers, Ed, they're going to be very, very quiet from here on out, because sure, they could be like, oh, he's just wasting a spot. No, he got the spot and now has 2 wins and is safely in the playoffs. And we're going to Sonoma, where he could go back-to-back in as many races with getting the victory. So that would make him tied for the most amount of wins out of anybody this season. He's currently 4th in points with 11 playoff points. And if he wins in Sonoma, and then let's say he wins at Watkins Glen, he's setting up really, really good for that first round of the playoffs. And all he has to do is just survive in advance. And then you got the Roll Bowl in round 2. I wouldn't be surprised to see SVG in the round of 8 come late September, early October, Ed.
No, I see a path for it just like you do, Brian, and that's exactly the avenue that you mentioned. If he somehow finds his way into the round of 12, there's a road course where he will be and deserves to be the betting favorite to get to that particular point. Brian, great to chat with you in the Fast Lane. Hopefully you and Dalton had a fun time in Chicago. We'll wrap it up on this. Is it the last time NASCAR has a Chicago road course race, but they've got a blueprint that they will use at other venues?
I think so. As much as I don't want that to happen, mainly just because I absolutely love the environment, love the atmosphere. I mean, it's the only was one of the only places that we don't have to get a rental car. We walk to our hotel the entire weekend. We were getting our steps in. So, but I do feel like it is time. I do feel like they're going to go out and go to San Diego, as Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic reported. Now, will they come back in a few years? You never know. Will they go to Chicagoland in a couple of years? You never know. That's more likely, in my opinion, that they'll go there instead of come back here. But I mean, crazier things have happened. But I'm just thankful it was dry for once. I've been at the past two where it was, the first one was like a hurricane. Second one was just like heavy rain. So I'm thankful that the rain held off until after the checkered flag and we got all 75 laps in. But yeah, I do think that it is gonna they will move it to San Diego coming up in 2026.
Brian Nolan with us here, not exactly breaking news, but confirming what many people suspect, which is nothing official, but almost everyone thinks Chicago is going to be replaced by the road course at the street course, in San Diego. Brian, we don't replace your insight. We know it's fantastic at the Brian Nolan on Twitter and frontstretch.com, despite what Michael Massey Jr. the 14th would lead you to believe.
Amen. 1,000%. And I just want to clarify, I was listening to Dalton Hopkins with you on Thursday. He did not take a single Tylenol like he said he was going to have to when he had to deal with me this weekend. We had a great time, and I did not annoy him that much. So I just wanted to clarify that up, Ed, but I always appreciate you coming or letting me come on your program, and it's always a pleasure, buddy.
It is ours as well for Brian Nolan at the Brian Nolan, Twitter and Instagram, and frontstretch.com. Sneaking in, Jason Prill with the Lynchburg Hillcats. Just like the Lynchburg Hillcats snuck in a 6-5 victory to salvage a split with the Salem Red Sox yesterday over at City Stadium, a venue that, well, we'll get to that part in the second question for Jason Prill. But the first one is, it's an improbable win, but how big was this for the Hillcats who salvage a split and take 3 out of 4 against Salem, seemingly positioning themselves to get some momentum as they welcome the Hickory Crawdads tomorrow night?
Yeah, Ed, I think it was huge. Lynchburg and Salem, I mean, this is a rivalry that goes back dozens and dozens of years. And it runs deep. And even though these players are new every single year, they buy into it. They want to beat Salem. They know that it's just an hour away. It is a rivalry matchup. And so being able to salvage the split, it meant a lot to the guys. And it does give this team some momentum and some belief that, hey, even when we're down, we can still come back. There's no deficit that's too great that we can't overcome.
And I saw that scoreboard that was still up when I did the InsaneRadioDeals.com fast take over at City Stadium earlier today. Mine was on the fact that it's now, we knew there were going to be upgrades. That was announced in March, but now it's $5.3 million in upgrades, which, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're talking about what it costs to upgrade venues in the world of sports, that's not a large number. And therefore, it legitimately, not like in some spots, but this legitimately positions, for greater amenities to bring more people to the area. And there is a legitimate return on investment path from these upgrades, not just for the Hillcats, but for the city of Lynchburg as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ed. This is it's a huge investment in one sense, but it's also a very budget-friendly investment in another sense. They're being cost efficient. They're being fiscal. They're making sure that they're making smart and wise decisions with the money that they have in order to bring more people out to the ballpark, more people to the city of Lynchburg. This is going to be a ballpark that attracts not just fans to Lynchburg Hillcats games, but it's going to attract different things to the venue and allow more events and more fun nights at the ballpark, concerts, outside games, and different leagues to stop in and play a couple games in front of the city of Lynchburg. So it's going to bring a lot of money into to the Hill City and provide a lot of opportunities for just everyone to come on out and enjoy a fun, family-friendly evening.
Jason Prill with us here. He's at JasPrill19 on Twitter and Instagram. And the Lynchburg Hillcats broadcaster is hanging out with us today in the fast lane. Jason, we'll wrap it up on this. Normally, I get it. The goal is to have these upgrades in place by next year. We all know that the world in construction and weather can throw a wrench into that. But the reality is these all seem to be upgrades that can still allow a fan to enjoy City Stadium the rest of this year and even into next year. While you see the upgrades taking place, it should not impact what the fans are able to enjoy now and in the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The ballpark's not going to lose its charm, and it's not going to lose its ability to watch a ball game this year or next year. And most of the changes are either going to be fully implemented or almost completely done by first pitch of 2026. It's going to be a huge opportunity for our fans to come out to the ballpark. They're going to want to see it. And the team, they knew about this a while back, and the talk was, we want to make playoffs, so we have to delay construction. Everybody was on board with that. So we're delaying construction until after the playoffs are finished because Lynchburg's trying to win a championship.
Jason Pro with us in the fast lane. That late start might come because of playoff baseball, but it's a reason the Hillcats will gladly take. We'll take the insight, Jason. Thank you for sharing it today in the fast lane.
Absolutely. Anytime, Ed.
Jason Pro with us here to wrap up the fast lane. That does it for us today. On to Make It Rain from VSiN, or maybe the commercial break they have already in progress.
Switching to Progressive is a game